The veteran who refused a medal and gave a country its mirror instead. It was a Thursday morning, quiet and overcast, when Malcolm Chen heard the soft metallic click of the letterbox. He was already up, had been since 5:42 a.m., as usual. Old habits from the Army never quite let go. His small apartment in Sacramento was modest: linoleum floors, a second-hand couch, and one prized possession: a photo frame on the bookshelf, slightly tilted. In the picture, 4 soldiers shoulder to shoulder, desert fatigues, wind-blown smiles. The one on the far right was Malcolm, 23 at the time, barely older than the boots he wore. He opened the door and bent down to retrieve the mail. Among the bills and flyers, a large cream-colored envelope stood out. Embossed in gold across the top, United States Department of Defense. Malcolm didn't move for a moment. Then he closed the door gently and carried the envelope to the table like it might break. Inside, the letter was formal, with an air of something meant to inspire pride. "We are honored to present you with the Distinguished Service Cross in recognition of your valor, sacrifice, and unwavering commitment during Operation Sand Ridge, 2006. Folded behind it, cushioned in velvet, was the medal itself. Malcolm stared at it, not for the weight of the honor, not for the shine of the medal, but for the silence between then and now. 18 years, not a call, not a knock, no check-ins, no follow-ups, no "how have you been since the blast that took your hearing in one ear or the surgery that followed?" No conversation about the nightmares. Or about Andre, the radio op who bled out in Malcolm's lap while command called for coordinates that never came in time. Just this: a medal in the mail. He sat down, still in his gray t-shirt and flannel pants, and placed the medal on the table like something foreign. The morning light glanced off the edge, refracting over a stack of unpaid hospital bills and a tube of arthritis cream. It wasn't anger in his eyes. Not really. It was distance, like he was watching himself from somewhere far away. He reached into a drawer, pulled out an old envelope with a return label still intact, and set it beside the medal. He didn't cry, didn't curse. He just whispered, almost inaudible, "You're 18 years too late." The last time Malcolm wore a uniform was June 14, 2007. It had been 98 degrees in Anbar province. Sweat clung like a second skin. The dust never settled. It hung in the air like a warning. And Malcolm remembered every detail of that morning: the crackling of the comms, the way Andre clipped his helmet strap twice before every patrol, the black ink of Mom tattooed on Sergeant Baez's wrist, half faded from sun and sand. They were on recon, simple route clearance along a dirt road riddled with ghost mines and false calm, until it wasn't. It came in a flash, then a sound like God slamming his fist into the earth. Malcolm woke up half buried, face down in sand. The sky spun sideways. His ears rang like a fire alarm underwater. He tasted iron. When he rolled over, he saw Andre beside him, still breathing, barely. His hand was clutching Malcolm's vest, eyes wide in panic. "Stay with me," Malcolm croaked. Andre's lips moved, but Malcolm couldn't hear anymore. He used his belt to stop the bleeding, tore off his own sleeve to compress the wound. He carried Andre across 2 dunes, shoulders on fire, boots slipping, all while stray rounds cracked the air around them like snapping branches. Andre didn't make it, but 6 others did, because Malcolm led them away from the kill zone and into cover. He didn't remember the helicopter ride, only the cold metal table under his back when they stitched his leg, and the blank wall he stared at later, when a young Army rep came in with a clipboard and said, "Hell of a job, Sergeant. We'll be in touch." They never were. In the years that followed, Malcolm tried everything. Applied for VA care, got put on a waiting list for 6 months, showed up for group therapy. Everyone else was 20 years older and spoke in sighs. Applied for a job at the local mechanic shop. The manager saw Army on his resume and asked if he had PTSD before even saying hello. He worked as a night janitor instead. Quiet floors, no sudden noises, just the hum of waxers and the rhythm of mops. No one asked questions. No one saluted. No one remembered. Sometimes he'd see people wearing yellow ribbons on their lapels or bumper stickers that read, "Support our troops." But when he limped into a grocery store or fumbled for exact change at the pharmacy, those same people looked past him or through him. He once sat outside the DMV for an hour before realizing the veteran's entrance was locked. They'd forgotten to unlock it. For 3 months, one afternoon, 3 years ago, Malcolm visited Andre's mother in Fresno. She served him tea in a chipped porcelain cup and placed a photo of Andre on the table. "I still set a place for him at dinner sometimes," she said. "I know it's silly, but—" She looked up. "I think he'd be proud of you." Malcolm had nothing to say because he wasn't proud of himself. He hadn't saved Andre. He hadn't saved any of them from what came after. Now, as he sat staring at the medal on the table, that moment came rushing back. The tea, the photo, the silence. "You think this fixes it?" he muttered to no one. He picked up the medal again. It felt heavier than it should. Then he reached for the return envelope. And slowly, carefully, he began to write. Malcolm didn't draft the letter on a computer. He sat at his kitchen table with a pen that skipped ink and a sheet of yellow-lined paper. His handwriting had stiffened with age, letters taller than they used to be, slightly crooked. But his words were steady. "To whom it may concern, I received the Medal of Patriotic Valor in the mail yesterday." There was no phone call, no visit, no ceremony, just a package. From someone who didn't sign their name. "I'm writing to return it." He paused. The clock ticked in the background. Outside, a dog barked. Somewhere in the building, someone dropped a pan. But Malcolm just kept writing. "I served in Anbar Province, Iraq from 2006 to 2010. I was an E5 Sergeant, 2nd Recon, 1st Marine Division. On June 14th, I carried Sergeant Andre Keller out of a kill zone after an IED attack. He died on the medevac. I remember how he grabbed my vest. I remember how much blood there was. I remember the silence when the blade stopped turning. I don't remember any medal." He turned the page. "What I do remember is the year I spent limping from one government office to another trying to get basic health care. I remember a woman calling me sir at a diner and then snatching her kid away when she saw my limp and the scars on my hand. I remember sleeping in my car for 3 nights when the paperwork for my housing stipend got lost. I remember being turned away from the VA center because they couldn't confirm my service record fast enough. I remember every time I walked into a room where people wore flags on their shirts, but never looked me in the eye." He hesitated for a long time before writing the final paragraph. Then slowly, "I'm not angry. I just don't want a medal that arrives too late, with no name and no memory. Give it to someone still fighting for space in the system. Or better yet, don't send medals. Send people. To listen." He signed it simply, Malcolm R. Knox, Sergeant, USMC Retrieve. He folded the letter once, then once more, slipped it into the envelope with the medal and sealed it shut. No dramatic gesture, no tears, just a quiet click of the mailbox lid as he dropped it in. It rained that night. Malcolm stood by the window, cup of coffee cooling in his hand. The street lights smeared into the glass, blurred by raindrops. Somewhere deep in the city, a siren howled, then faded. The medal was gone. But something lighter settled in his chest. He didn't know what would come of it. He didn't send it for headlines. He just wanted someone, anyone, to feel the weight that had lived in his hands too long. 3 days later, Malcolm's phone rang. It was a Washington area code, but no name. He let it go to voicemail. Then a second call, and a third. By the time the fourth came, his curiosity outweighed his skepticism. He answered, "Mr. Knox, this is Captain Elizabeth Kerr, Office of Veteran Affairs." Malcolm stayed quiet for a beat. He wasn't used to officers calling him anymore, especially not to talk. "I received your letter, the one you sent with the medal." She didn't sound like she was reading from a script. No official tone, no defensive language, just human. "I just wanted you to know, it's being read, really read." Malcolm let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. That was just the beginning. A week later, he received another letter, this time hand-signed. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't filled with excuses. It was a recognition, a quiet one. "We have no right to ask for your forgiveness, but we do have the duty to listen better from now on." There was no invitation to Washington, no press release. But something else began to happen. One of the staffers from the VA clinic downtown called. They'd heard about his letter and asked if he'd be willing to speak to their team during training week. "Nothing formal," she said, "just a real story." Then came an email from a student veterans group at the local community college. Then a knock on his door from a young man in a Navy ROTC jacket who had driven across the city to say just one thing. "Sir, I saw your letter online. My dad was like you. He never got to send his back. Thank you for sending yours." Malcolm invited him in. They talked over tea. For the first time in a long while, Malcolm spoke, and someone stayed. The letter began to travel, shared quietly, printed and passed. Not viral, not trending, but felt. 1 month later, the Office of Veteran Affairs issued a new policy. No more medals mailed without a human hand. Every honor from then on would require contact, context, and connection. A person, a name, a voice. They didn't announce it on TV, but someone made sure Malcolm got a note. "This change has a file number, but around here, we just call it the Knox Rule." That night, Malcolm sat by the window again. Same old couch, same city hum. But there was a photo now on the table. Him, Keller, and 3 other Marines, grinning, covered in dust, arms slung over each other's shoulders in the Afghan sun. He picked it up, tucked it into a new frame. A simple plaque below it. Still here. It was a Tuesday morning when the envelope arrived. No stamp, no government seal, just a simple note slid under the front door. "Mr. Knox, we heard what you said without raising your voice. We saw what you did without asking for applause, so today, we honor you the way you taught us to. If ever you'd like to speak, the door is open. Semper Fidelis." Folded within it was a list, a small simple list of new procedures for the regional VA office. In-person delivery of medals unless explicitly requested otherwise, required training for all staff on recognition, dignity, and implicit bias, optional listening sessions with veterans led by veterans, a new plaque in the clinic lobby. This place honors not just service, but the silence that follows. Malcolm smiled. He didn't need a stage. He just needed a door to open. Once, that spring, he began walking again. Not far, just a few blocks around the neighborhood each morning before the city fully woke. One day, he passed the local high school and saw a group of students raising the flag. One of them, a quiet girl in ROTC blues, caught his eye. He paused, watched them finish, then turned to walk away. "Sir?" A voice called behind him. He turned. Are you Mr. Knox?" He nodded slowly. "We read your letter in class. My dad said to tell you, thank you." Malcolm looked at her, a full generation apart, and yet something in her eyes mirrored his. "Tell your father," he said gently. He was never alone. That night he wrote another letter, not to the government, not to the press, just a short note, placed beside the metal frame Keller had once made him, now empty, the space inside left bare on purpose. To whoever reads this next, if they ever try to mail you a medal, ask for a conversation instead, and if they won't give it, start one anyway. He folded it, slid it into the frame, and hung it on the wall,